that moment, like when he was born, that was just like...
What's up, guys? My name is Stephanie Wimpenny. Welcome back to my channel. These are the feet of my son, William. This is my third interview with Charlotte Gray on her incredible birth story. But if you missed the other two, don't worry, I got you covered. It's up there in the cards with William's feet. Make sure you go check those out. Aside from that, thank you so much for liking and subscribing. Let's get into it.
My waters broke at like 5 a.m. or something. They woke me up because I was like, oh, the bed's all wet. Like, what's happened? So my first thought was like, did I pee? Like, what? You know? Like, what happened here? Fabian's there asleep. That's my partner. And I'm like, So like, go to the toilet, realize what's happening. I was like, didn't think I'd be cranking these out, but cranked out the adult diaper. So I was like, well, here we go. Like, oh. But I tell you, it beats wearing, like, they're actually fairly comfortable, but I was glad I had them because I was like, oh, this is awesome. I can just wear these like pants and go about my business. But I was sitting there and I'm going, okay, so like, when's my labor going to start? Because you see, like, in the movies, their waters break and it's like, oh, we're going to go to the hospital. But I'm waiting and of course, straight away as well, I'm like, this was my mum, because my mum's waters broke at like 5 a.m. And she had no contractions, and that was why she ended up going into the hospital. Right. So my waters broke, and you know, Fabian woke up and I told him, and he was like, oh, do I need to do anything? And I was like, no. I was like, nothing's happening. So he just like rolled over and went back to sleep. I couldn't go back to sleep because I was all trying not to get excited, but of course you start to get excited. But I knew from everything I'd read that just because your waters break doesn't mean you're going to go into labor. Normally, I think the gist is you do go into labor within 24 hours, which is a pretty big window. So I just kind of went about my regular day. I called my doula. I told her, and she sort of said, have you called the hospital? And I was like, no. So that should be a warning sign for me already. I was like, oh, because I already know what they're going to say. So I called the hospital, and their first thing was, oh, can you come in and we'll check you? And then we can induce you, or if you're already, you know, a bit dilated, we'll just see how you go. And I said, oh, but what if I'm nowhere near dilated? Like, can I go back home? And then she was like, well, yeah, we could send you home. She's like, oh, wait, I can't induce you because induction's full at the moment. So maybe wait a couple of hours. And I said, oh, look, you know, you're a 40-minute drive away, and I'm happy. I'm just going to stay at home for now. Thanks. I mean, I can't force you to do anything. So I stayed at home, had like a nap at lunchtime. I was feeling just regular. I monitored my fluids to make sure, because your body doesn't stop making waters, or like, you know, your body keeps making it. So you don't just like dry out or anything, like, you know, like it's still, your body's still making the fluid that's in you. Yeah, sorry.
The water inside the water.
Yeah, so your waters, so you keep like leaking like all day.
Right.
So you have to stay really hydrated.
That's why you needed the napping. Got it.
Yeah, that's why you needed the adult diaper, because it's like a period, but worse. Like, well, yeah. So, and apparently it's not that common. The waters breaking one isn't that common, but that's, you know, maybe that's just how I roll. It's how Mum rolled. So, anyway, so my waters broke, did all that. It got to like, had a bit of a nap at daytime because I thought, oh, I bet you I'm going to go, like, things are probably going to amp up at nighttime, which they did. And then it got to sort of like 5 o'clock, and all the while, like, my doula, she is an empath, and so she was sort of saying, she'd said the day before, she's like, she says she feels like she can feel people's contractions, or she feels like she knows when someone's in labor. And she was saying the day before, you're like, I feel like someone's in labor, and she's like, I'm pretty sure it's you. And I'm like, it's not me. I feel great. Like, I think I'd know. And then it sort of got to like 4 or 5 p.m. and I would say, niggling, kind of like a period cramp. So like I could feel it, but I wasn't in pain, which, you know, I just thought it was like period cramps. And they slowly progressed, got stronger. I felt like going for a walk. So Fabian and I went for a walk around the lake, which is like 1 kilometer. And I just stop and have my contractions if I needed to. They slowly progressed. Yeah, pretty much. I was like, just hold on a second. So I could speak through them for quite a while, and it got to the point where I kind of couldn't speak during them. Like I needed to concentrate. I had all the lights turned off. I had some like electric candles on, and still at home. So this was funny because I didn't know I would be like this, but I was like, Fabian, like just leave me alone. Like just go away. I just want to be by myself. So I really was like a lone wolf, just like leave me alone. I'm in labor. Like don't come near me. Just leave me to be. And I did try laying down to have a rest, but the contractions or pains, they were like way worse as soon as I laid down. I got in the shower, and that was like when the shower was on my belly, I couldn't feel anything, to the point where I was like afraid. I was like, am I stopping my contractions because I'm in the shower? So I like got out of the shower because I was worried. I'm like, when I have the water on me, I don't feel anything. So I kept calling my doula because, and this was how I would say, aside from the hypnobirthing, this is how she really affected my birth. She stopped me from going to the hospital too early because she knew what I wanted. Usually, maybe not for everyone, but for a lot of people, once you get to the hospital, you're not in your zone anymore. You're not in your environment.
You can't control
you're having to deal with, you can't control it. You can try, but so she was great because I think there were a few times there where I got a bit like, I can't remember, it might have been at like 11 p.m. or 12 p.m. I was a bit like, oh, do I go to the hospital yet? And I was recording my contractions myself. Because like I said, I just wanted to be alone. Like I had a part there where I was really like, I don't know what's going on, like nothing's happening. My doula kept saying to me, your contractions need to get longer and stronger. They were kind of just staying the same level, and they were all going for like 45 seconds, maybe 50 seconds. And so they weren't getting longer. And I was like looking at it and I'm like, they're not getting any longer. Like, what's happening? And then I was talking to her at about 2 a.m. I think it was. And I literally said the words on the phone to her, I don't know what to do. I don't know when I'm going to, when am I going to need to go to the hospital, or why aren't they getting longer and stronger? And then like in saying that, then I got this like minute and a half long contraction. And it was, a bit more intense. And then I got another one. This is when I'm on the phone to her, like nearly back to back, very close. And and then next minute I've got this, like my body's trying to push. And I'm like, I feel like my body's pushing. And she sort of said to me, well, you better get in the car then, because unknown to me, I'd obviously gone through transition and everything. So I was in stage 2, whatever you want to call it. Like my baby was ready to come out. So we leapt in the car. That was like the worst part of the whole thing, was being in the car and getting those surges. And that was just not pleasant. As anyone who's probably had those surges knows, it would not be nice to be sitting in a car with your hips kind of, that was just a no. Like it was so funny. I remember trying to press record to record how long it went for. And it was so, I was like, oh, and I just like the phone like flew away in the car somewhere because I just couldn't, I was like so intense. And I pretty much, and I wasn't, again though, I don't think I could call them, I don't want to call them painful because I feel like they're intense. Like it's your body contracting and working. And so it's not like pain of like, oh, I cut my hand, ow. For me, it wasn't that sort of pain. It was more a pain of like, okay, like we're doing some work, and I would make this sound, like this guttural, like what you hear women making on those shows. So I had to make that sound every time. And it's funny because when I watch a lot of hypnobirthing stuff, a lot of the women who do have hypnobirths, quite a few are quiet, like completely quiet. But for me, I could not stay quiet. Like I had to make this sound. It was just so instinctual. Like this, I had to do it.
You watched all the animal births.
Maybe. I think it was more, I had to make a noise. And again, I sound like such a fangirl, but like anime is always like, whatever you're doing with your mouth, that's like what's happening down there. So if you don't want to be high pitched and clenched and anything, you want to be like, have your mouth kind of open. Have an open mouth, have a really low vibrational sound coming through your body if you have to make a sound. But anyway, so we're in the car, and I'm like called, because I hadn't spoken to them for quite a while. Like, I think I spoke to them, the midwifery, I think it was not since like 10 a.m. So I called them and I'm like, hey, I'm on my way in the car. Thought I'd give you a bit of a heads up. And then I called them again because we sort of lived just north of Brisbane. And we called them again when we got to like Lutwyche, because I thought like it's go time, because I could like feel his head like a centimetre inside me. Little did I know it would take quite a while.
Did you like legit feel his head?
Yeah, well, I just put because I felt like it was,
cool.
So I could feel his head. Like, it was literally like a centimetre in. And I called them when we were at Lutwyche or something, which is sort of like 10 minutes from the hospital. And I'm like, yeah, I'm worried I don't know if I'm going to have the baby in the car. I'm like, but we're nearly there. And can someone be there to let me in? Because when you go after hours, you usually go through emergency. But I was a bit like, I don't know where to go. Like, because this is the other thing. I didn't go to any of their prenatal classes because I just didn't want to. From what I'd heard, it was all about epidurals and painkillers and a bit scared. Like, they make you watch some pretty traumatic stuff, like people getting epidurals and looking at the needles and all that. And I just went, like, that's not for me. Yeah. I'm doing enough of my own birth education. So I didn't actually know where to go. So, like, even though I'd been there to like outpatients maternity, I'd never been into where maternity was. So I was also a bit like, oh, can someone meet me? Because, and at that time I had another one, and and the midwife just goes, oh shit, like on the phone. And she's going, do you need to pull over? And I'm like, no, we're nearly there. And then she's like, oh yeah, by the time you pull over, it'll take an ambulance that long to get there. She's like, just keep going. She's like, just pull up in emergency and come out, and someone will be there to meet you. Got there, someone's there with a wheelchair, and I'm there like, I can't sit down. I'm there just like ambling through with my hands on the wall, holding onto the rail in the lift, just like bellowing. I had no shoes on, like no thongs or anything on. I'm walking through maternity, and there's people there, like obviously waiting for other people having birth or whatever else. And I'm just having to stop in the hallway and like squat a bit and go, oh, and everyone's looking like, oh my God, like this girl's like having fun. And so I think a few people were a bit shocked, but I mean, it's where people go to have a baby. So, but anyway, so I got in there. So that was all a bit like and there was a tiny voice in my head when I was getting in the car that was a bit like, just stay at home. But anyway, those little voices. So I got in there. I have that voice too. Yeah, this little voice that says something to you. And I think the worst part was, my first thought was, I've paid money for a doula. If I stay home, my doula doesn't come. I need to go to the hospital because my doula will be there to help me. So this is what I mean. And when I sort of say, looking back, I think I was still maybe not afraid, but maybe hoping for someone to help me at that end part. Whereas I think really I should have still kept trusting myself and trusting that I knew what to do. We got in there, and then, I was in a dodgy room because all the other rooms were full. When I say dodgy room, it was just like there was nothing in there. It was a bit of a joke, actually. She was like apologizing, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do about it? So we turned off all the lights. We put on I had electric candles, which I would so recommend because it just creates a bit more ambience. Yeah. And that was what I had at home. I played my hypnobirthing track.
Far out. You must have been so coherent, because like when I was in hospital,
I wasn't. I'm about to get to that.
You remember? I can't tell you shit about my birth room.
Oh, I knew. I was like,
you must have been so in the zone.
When I got in there, this was that was the last kind of bit where I felt like I really spoke. Like I kind of got in there, and I was a bit like, I think I said, can we turn the lights off or something? And Fabian did all of that, and I got up on the bed. There's no way I could stay standing or get in a squat or lie down. Like I had to go on all fours. Again, all fours. I'd kind of prepared myself that was how I wanted to give birth, because from what I'd read and seen, you're less likely to, because remember my fear is tearing, so you're less likely to tear because you're in control when you're on all fours. You can slow it down if you feel like it's just going way too fast, which is what I felt like. I felt like I was losing it, like slipping a bit. Like I felt like my body was just pushing. I wasn't pushing. And it's scary when your body is just like pushing this thing and you're like, I'm not ready. Like I'm trying to open like gradually. So, you know, I got up on this bed and I was kind of like holding the top of the bed. I probably would have been better off going on the floor, but they had no mats. Like this was sort of stuff she was apologizing about. And then she kind of didn't really say much to me for the rest of it, my midwife. And this was where I think looking back, and it's always retrospect, but now I think this was where I kind of got into a little bit of trouble, in that I wished I'd done a bit more research or understood more about how long this part can take. Because in my head, I sort of thought, you know, I'm not pushing, I'm kind of letting my body push, which again kind of goes against a lot of what you see and what you're told, like, oh, you've got to push.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like pushing, because like I said, I felt like I was going to just tear. Like I needed that time to try and let my body stretch and open. And I kept trying to think, you know, I'm going to get huge, I'm going to open, like I'm going to get, you know, I was trying to keep telling myself this.
So huge.
Yeah, it sounds funny, but like that's the kind of thing, like believe you're going to open. Your mind is like so powerful. It's going to, you know.
Yeah.
So then my doula got there. I think we'd already been there for nearly an hour when she got there. Yeah, but she was sort of coming from a little bit further away than us. I think I also woke her up, of course, at like 2 a.m. or whatever it was, because she was getting her sleep so she could be there, you know, for me. And yeah, this is where I think it slipped a bit, because I started to, you know, my surges now, they were intense, like they were coming quite a bit closer. And you probably remember like that feeling of like every time I had one of these surges, I had to make this sound. I had to try and relax my body, because I was just, you know, like I was tensing up because it was so uncomfortable. And, you know, I think at that point, I also lost the ability to kind of talk. So I couldn't, and this was like, it was so bad. Like looking back now, it was like, I had all these thoughts in my head, all these questions in my head, and I couldn't get anything out. And like I will say, just make sure your partner or your birth companion or whoever is there with you, like 100% knows your birth plan and what you want. Because to me, it was, yeah, I couldn't have probably advocated for myself if I had to, because I couldn't speak. It was so weird. It was really like my brain was trying to stop me from, you know, switching over into the other brain. So that was quite scary, because yeah, I thought I would have been able to say more things, but I really couldn't, I should say as well. Like I felt like I waited for my doula to get there, because I kind of felt like she would somehow miraculously be able to save me, which isn't fair on her or even the midwife. Like I kind of wanted someone to say to me, hey, it's okay that this is taking a while. Like this is normal. You're doing great. Like you're doing a really good job.
Yeah,
just keep going.
The positive
You can. I needed someone to say to me, like, you're doing really well, because to me, I didn't know how much progress I was making. The midwife did bring me a mirror, which was good, because I did say that in my birth plan. I wanted a mirror to see. And so I could see, like, and it was a little disheartening, because, you know, you'd have the contraction in the head, you'd see more of the head, and then it would finish and the head would go back a bit. But that's the process. It's the gentle stretching, the ring of fire, like a gentle stretching of your body's got to stretch, like to open. But I just needed someone to say to me, and, you know, and I said this to my partner, like he was great in that he also had no fear of me giving birth. Like he believed that I'd educated him along the way with me. And I think that's also important. Like involve your partner, make sure they understand like what your thoughts are, and so that they're not bringing in fear either. The midwife asked me, you know, can you put your leg up into a lunge? And you know, me being whatever, started the first time she asked me, I thought, no, I'm not doing that. Like that feels horrible. Again, I should just ignored her. And then she asked me again when we were getting on a bit, and me maybe knowing too much immediately went, well, if your baby's potentially stuck with shoulder dystocia, that's what they do. They tell you to put your leg up to open the pelvis so the baby can get through. But this thought's gone through my head, and all I needed to do was to have asked her, why do you want me to put my leg up? All I needed was Fabian or my doula to go, is there a reason why you're asking her to put her leg up? Like, why are you asking her to do that kind of thing? Even though my birth was imminent, she did ask me to put my leg up. again, and I was a bit like, oh, they're obviously asking me this for a reason, even though I think they just wanted me to hurry up. And then my baby was born like so quickly after that. Like it was way intense. It was too much. I shouldn't have listened to what they were asking me because there was no issue. I really
felt fine.
I felt fine. I mean, I was getting tired because I think I was tired because they are intense and it's hard work, and crowning is hard work. Like, and I wasn't pushing, but my body was still working. I could have pushed and he probably would have been born quicker, but I also think I would have torn more if I had pushed.
Yeah.
And so I did tear, not a super bad tear. Yeah, I did tear still, which again kind of made me a little sad because I felt like and I mean, it's not, oh, you didn't tear, you get a gold star. It's more like, for me personally, I felt like I hadn't pushed because I didn't want to tear. I'd gone through without pushing for like 2 hours, trying to let my body gradually crown and open, and then to tear, I was a bit like, oh, like really? Like and
then right at the last minute, I listened,
yes.
Told me to put my foot up, and maybe if I didn't do that, now I'll never know.
Yeah, so now, and that's what you do. Like, I think a lot of people do that. You like re-go over your birth and you're going, oh, if only I, hadn't done that or hadn't done this. So, and I mean, and I think I also got upset because when I did put my leg up, straight away, I was like, my body was like, bad choice, put it back. But they grabbed my leg, so I couldn't put my leg back. And straight away, if someone's got a hold, straight away, I just like, my body would have tensed again because someone's grabbing my leg and not letting me put my leg back down. But anyway, that moment, like when he was born, that was just like absolute euphoria. Like there is no fear. Well, yeah, there's pretty much, I don't think there's a feeling like it, but that absolute joy. And I think you just get like dumping of endorphins and oxytocin, and you just feel like, I was so proud of myself. And I think people have trouble saying that because I think it sounds like you're bragging and you're saying you're so great, and I'm like, no, but I was so proud of my body and my mind and like what we managed to do, and my baby, like all working together. And my eyes, like, and that was another great thing my doula did, even though she doesn't normally do it. She did take a couple of photos on her phone because I didn't have a photographer, because I didn't know if I wanted to be photographed. But she did take some photos of me in those moments. And like right when I've got Hamish, and my eyes look like I'm on drugs. Like I look like a wild animal because like my pupils are all dilated and I'm not there. Like you just go in this weird, I can't explain it, but you probably would relate. Like I just look so weird. Like I look like I'm high. Like I'm on drugs.
That is so cool. I want to check out my photos now to see if this happens.
Just look in your eye, like see if you can see your eyes and see what you look like. Cause I look at myself and I'm like, I don't know what, like I look like I'm not even there. Like I look like but just that, yeah, the absolute, like it's so worth it. Like the absolute euphoria that you experience after it, to me was just, I hope I always remember it, because and I have written it all down, and I just want to remember that feeling, because I don't think I've ever felt more proud of myself than in that moment. And again, I think even after I gave birth, I think I was still a bit like, oh, if it wasn't for my doula, if it wasn't for my midwives, if it wasn't for my partner, like I was always saying, I had the birth I had because of everyone else. But at the same time, like a lot of it is you. Don't not give yourself credit, I think is what I'm trying to say. Because it was, I still look back on it and I go like, wow, I did that. Like it's a cool feeling.